Thank you, Sam. Good morning, and welcome to our Sunday worship service. I am Joe Palin, and I'll be your celebrant this morning. I'm a longtime member of the UUCP since 1999. While I have participated in a number of ways, I've mostly been involved in the RE program. As a volunteer teacher for Children's RE, as a facilitator for OWL, and on the RE committee before we had a full-time director of family ministries and programs. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all those who are joining us for the first time. We are very glad that you are here. You've come in person. If you've come in person, you should have received a welcome packet with an information card in it. If you fill out that and drop it off in the offering basket, we will be in touch to support you in finding your way into our community. If you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of that same card. Our welcoming committee members have a yellow name tags and can answer any questions or point you to any additional information. Whether or not, please consider staying for coffee and conversation after the service. Either downstairs in our fellowship hall or in our Zoom room. And now, let's say our words of welcome together. Whether this is your first or your 1,000th Sunday with us, and whether you stroll, roll, zoom, ran, or handstand, we are glad you chose to join us. We are one people of many beliefs and identities, religions, sexualities, and genders. All are welcome here. Now we'll take a moment to say hello across the technical divide. First, we're going to show the people joining us on Zoom. And there they are. If you're at home, please turn on your camera and please wave. Now, people who are attending the service in our building, it's your turn to wave. This morning we have a few announcements. This fall, the UUCP is launching a new program called UU Wellspring. It is an intense 10-month small group program of spiritual transformation and UU identity formation. If you're interested, please get in touch with Ryan Urey, today's service leader. I'd also like to announce that the Palouse Zen community meets on Thursday evenings for Zazen sitting meditation in the UUCP library. If you're interested in sitting, please contact myself, Joe Palin, or member Pat Hine. And I believe Sam has an announcement.
Hey everybody, my name's Sam Welsh. I'm the music guy and the videos and technology guy. So you might notice that the booth is empty. That's because Alex is gone in Chicago for a very important piano conference, and he's presenting in a session. We're all very excited about it. So as a result, I thought this was a great opportunity to test some of our backup gear. So I very easily could have asked one of our wonderful members of the technology committee to step in and help out. However, I said, why not? Let's try one of our redundancy setups. So you'll see that I'm running everything from the piano today. So that includes the sound, the camera switching, all of the video, and then Ryan and I are doing some stuff with other instruments. And so I'm trying my best to multitask, but there may be a couple things that drop. So also, with apologies to Joe and to Ryan, I will need like maybe an extra couple seconds kind of transitioning in and out of things. But that aside, we've had some wonderful responses for people interested in joining the technology committee, or at the very minimum, learning how to work the gear. I'd love it if everybody had some knowledge on how to work the gear. Whether or not you decide to participate in Sunday worship, it's helpful if you ever do meetings or rehearsals or other things at the church. It's just great to know the system. So if you're interested, please get a hold of me either at my email after the service, or you can also email me at music.director@bluesuu.org. Okay, thanks.
Here are the announcements. We preface our service by acknowledging our church was built on the ancestral homelands of the Nimipu, called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Chichumets, called the Coeur d'Alene. Let us pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore the wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. We are hoping that folks joining us on Zoom have a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. Let us light our chalices together. I would like to invite Clover to light the chalice.
Please be seated. Good morning. My name is Ryan Urie. I work for the church in the RE program. And while I've led service several times over the past few years, I really didn't plan to do that this summer until I saw what the theme was: ways of finding meaning in our lives. And I knew I had a lot to say on that and had to speak up. I think most people approach this question in terms of activities that make life enjoyable or fulfilling or connected or significant. Things like serving others or creating objects of beauty or nurturing living things. For me, however, meaning has always been a more philosophical matter, something closely tied to suffering and loss. I had to confront death and loss repeatedly from an early age, and for me, finding meaning was really a matter of survival, the search for a reason to continue living in spite of a painful and often joyless existence. The philosopher and author Camus once said that there is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. Put differently, what is it that allows us to find life worth living in spite of the constant struggle and the inevitable demise? What I sought was not a meaningful endeavor or way to spend my time, but the very meaning of life itself, in order to stave off the hopelessness of death. Philosophically speaking, searching for the meaning of life is kind of like being one of those early European explorers who was in the New World looking for cities of gold and fountains of youth. But, unlike those explorers and their consistently dire fates, I eventually found what I sought, and that's what I would like to share with you all today. But first, let us sing together our opening hymn, Filled with Loving Kindness.
Now let's take a moment to engage in the practice of generosity together. For those of you able to make a financial contribution, the logistics are on your screen. We typically give away all of the cash from our Sunday offering to local charities whose mission align with our values in a program called Month of Sundays. This month, the recipient is Planned Parenthood, whose mission is to provide the high-quality, inclusive, and comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care services to all people who need and deserve them with respect and compassion. To donate, please indicate Month of Sundays on your check or from the online drop-down menu. In the spirit of love and for the continuing work of this church, we will now take some time to practice generosity together. Oh. Oh. I'd like to invite Mary Jo up to the podium to share about our Month of Sundays, 5th Sunday.
And this is a one-time collection for a group that collects, it's called Stuff the Bus, and it collects school supplies and other things that you need in this classroom to distribute to the schools so that kids whose families can't afford all this, their kids will still have the things they need in school. So this offering this morning goes to Stuff the Bus.
So for today's offertory music, I wanted to share a song I deeply love called It's All Understood by Jack Johnson. And when I was telling people about this service, I mentioned this, and everybody knows who Jack Johnson is, but nobody knows this song. So I had to end up singing it myself. And I'm going to confess, almost nothing on this planet scares me more than singing publicly. So I'll give it my best go, but I also just wanted to say how much I appreciate this church and this congregation, because just the loving and caring of this body of people makes it safe to do scary things, and I'm very grateful for that. Either way. Okay. Are we on? especially when we don't understand. Well, it's all just because. Even when we don't understand, well, it's all just believe. I was reading a book, or maybe it was a magazine. Suggestions on where to place faith, suggestions on what to believe. But I read somewhere that you've got to beware. You can't believe anything you read. But the good book is good, and that's well understood. So don't even question if you know what I mean. But it's all relative. Even if you don't understand, well, it's all understood. Especially when you don't understand, well, it's all just because. Even when we don't understand, well, it's all just believe. But there you go, once again, you miss the point, and then you point your fingers at me and say that I said not to believe, but I believe. But there you go, once again, you miss the point, and then you point your fingers at me and say that I said what to believe, but I believe. But there you go, once again, you miss the point, and then you point your fingers at me and say that I said not to believe, but I believe. I guess it's all relative. Today's spoken meditation comes from Elizabeth Tarbox. It's called The Healing Moment. Each day I am newly reminded of my unworthiness. A dozen thoughts misspoken, myriad small interchanges, months of careful work lost by a moment's impatience, a careless word. But when I am here at the edge of creation, breaking with the small tide over the sand, the need to do good rolls away. The question of what is right diminishes to insignificance and is easily borne away by the tiny waves. Here, where no words are spoken, none are misspoken. I am with the broken stubble of the marsh grass that holds on through the wrecking wind and the burning flood. I am with the grains that mold themselves around everything, holding and shaping it until it feels that it belongs. I stand somewhere between truth and vision, and what I don't know ceases to embarrass me, because what I do know is that the water feels gentle like a lover's touch, and the sand welcomes it. What I have done or failed to do has left no noticeable mark on creation. What I do or don't do is of no moment now. Now I am here and grateful to be touched, calmed, and healed by the immense pattern of the universe. And when I die, it will be an honor for my blood to return to the sea and my bones to become the sand. Reassured, I am called back to my life to another day. Now let us meditate in silence for a moment. For today's musical offering, I'd like to share another of my favorite songs from another of my favorite bands. And if it seems like I'm taking advantage of being service leader to make you all listen to the music I like, let me reassure you that, yes, that's exactly what's happening. Anyone who's been service leader knows the power just goes straight to your head. But the lyrics are relevant and the song is sweet, and I hope you enjoy. This is Born on Earth by Dispatch.
Today's reading is by Larry Rosenberg, Sitting Just to Sit. Intimacy is an experience of non-separation, of being at one with whatever is happening. We tend to think that we are not all right now. We're too fearful, greedy, angry, whatever. But that if we take up some spiritual practice, we can improve ourselves. We will be all right at some moment in the future. We have, in order to mind. Sorry, I'm going to do that again. We have, in order to mind. We are always doing this in order to get that, or in order to be that. Yet that very tendency to strive, to be ambitious, be preoccupied with a goal, get ahead of ourselves, takes us out of the present moment, away from how we are now. It can actually prevent intimacy. Then we complain we don't have it. Our wish for intimacy can prevent us from being intimate.
As I mentioned in the opening, my search for meaning began when I was around 9 years old after my brother died in a bike accident. Prior to that, I'd been a curious, carefree, and enthusiastic child, much like any other. But after his death, with my shell of innocence fractured, I had to confront new questions. Things like, why do anything at all if I'm just going to die anyway? Why endure all this struggle and pain? Why build what is destined to crumble? Why love what will inevitably die? If we were immortal, I suspect the questions about the meaning of life would never arise at all. In some sense, life would be meaningless without death. It would simply ensue with no need for explanation or justification. We wouldn't need that sense of belonging to something bigger than ourselves to keep us pushing forward day by day, even as we know our fate. It's the constant loss, destruction, and suffering of this existence that lead us to ask, what's it all for? Faced with unrelenting grief and depression, not to mention the realization of my mortality and that of everyone I loved, I began a desperate search for something, just anything, to anchor myself in an existence where nothing is permanent. Such existential crises are where the religious impulse is born. But when my all-knowing, all-loving, almighty Christian God I'd been raised on ignored my cries for solace and my pleas for mercy, when I fell to the floor crying for a shred of grace and found only silence, I buried my God next to my brother and I began to explore science, philosophy, art, literature, trying to find some way to make sense of life's cruel absurdities. And I found many answers, but I was always left with doubts and the urge to go deeper. Little by little, the search for meaning itself became the thing that gave my life a purpose. Now, while my classmates were going to parties and learning to date and doing the teenager thing, I was grappling with the question of free will in a world governed by ironclad physical laws. Instead of sports and fashion, I spent my time seeking an ethical grounding in a world where cheaters win and injustice is rewarded. And I continued to listen in the night stillness for the faintest whisper of this God everyone around me was so sure of, but who seemed to have passed me by. I tried yoga, guided meditation, prayer, poetry, homemade rituals with fire and water. I journaled, I read obsessively, I went to therapy, I joined support groups, but nothing ever withstood my deep skepticism and my potent cynicism. Nothing felt true until I discovered Zen Buddhism. Now, Zen at first can seem like nothing but a collection of impossible riddles, the sound of one hand clapping and trees falling soundlessly in the woods, the Buddha nature of dogs. With Zen, As with life generally, if you think you have it all figured out, you've already missed the point. Because what Zen seeks is an experience of reality that's beyond rational understanding, beyond categories, beyond logic. As such, Zen can never be captured in words, only hinted at. Instead of filtering our experience of the world through our mental constructs, Zen invites us to experience our reality directly. And instead of experiencing it as something separate from ourselves, which are also mental constructs, it suggests that we do so as reality experiencing itself, with no boundaries of self and other. Now, I probably all know that the culmination of Zen is this experience of enlightenment, which is the point at which your sense of self and all the mental structures you use to understand reality dissolve, and you become as one with everything. So I hear. I have to confess I'm a profoundly lazy Buddhist and thoroughly unenlightened. Now, a lot of practitioners study and meditate for years and even decades to achieve enlightenment. Yet many Zen masters will insist that enlightenment itself is a red herring and that we are all already enlightened and just don't realize it. This quest is sometimes compared to the journey of a person who walks the earth for years in search of a precious jewel, only to arrive at the end and find it's been dangling from his neck the entire time. So you can't think your way to enlightenment because you're already there, and it's thinking that keeps you from realizing it. So how does this all relate to death and meaning? Well, let's start with a common symbol of Zen, the yin-yang. You can see up there on the screens. This symbol captures the idea that what we perceive as separate opposites are really aspects of one unified whole. The shape further suggests that each is ever moving into the other, indicating the incessant change that is the essence of reality. And those little dots show where each member of the pair finds itself within the other. One can't exist without the other. Light doesn't exist without dark. Kindness can't exist without cruelty, nor liberal without conservative. You get the idea. Mentally dividing the oneness of reality into categories in this way is a really useful skill to have if you are interested in, surviving. But these categories are not themselves reality, and that's the point that Zen tries to make. One of our most persistent dualities and categories is this idea of self and other. The idea of a separate, isolated self is an abstraction created by our brains to bring a sense of coherence to the things our bodies experience. But this very useful illusion leads us to experience isolation, loneliness, fear, and all manner of existential dreads unique to humanity. The very idea of death only arises because of this false notion of a self that begins and ends. In reality, according to Zen, there's no self to die, because we're not distinct entities, but rather each a facet of a single, ever-changing reality where nothing begins or ends, only changes. So I'll illustrate with a Zen parable. There once was a wave moving across the ocean's surface with its fellow waves, basking in the sunlight and fresh air, savoring its existence. But then it looked ahead and saw something just terrible. On a distant shore, all the waves before it were, one by one, smashing against the shoals and ceasing to exist. And the wave began to panic, and he called out to its companions, "We have to stop. Turn back. We're all going to die." But the wave next to him only smiled and said, "Don't be afraid. You're not a wave. You're a part of the ocean." Dying, then, is but a matter of changing form and returning to what we always were, one aspect of an ever-changing universe where nothing is ever truly lost. Because the self is an illusion, so too is the permanency of death. Each of us is but the shape the universe has chosen to take in this time and this place, and in time we will return to the deep waters and wait to take new forms. As author Chuck Klosterman writes in his tome of pop culture wisdom titled Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs, it's actually a really good quote despite the name of the book it came from. In and of itself, nothing really matters. What matters is that nothing is ever in and of itself. I'll read that one more time. In and of itself, nothing really matters. What matters is that nothing is ever in and of itself. So what then does it mean to be a wave? or a human if you prefer. When we ask what the meaning of something is, we're typically looking for something more, a deeper truth, beyond the thing itself, a connection to something bigger. When we ask about the meaning of a word, for example, we're seeking its proper place within these larger systems of language and syntax. If we ask the meaning of a poem, we're trying to connect its message to our lived experiences of truth and beauty. To seek the meaning of something is to connect it with the larger patterns of existence, the something more beyond the thing itself. But to ask something more of existence itself is frankly absurd, or ungrateful at the very least. Here we are, inexplicably, the manifestations of an infinite and immortal universe, brimming with beauty and miracles and mysteries, yet somehow we find ourselves still asking, what else you got? If there is a great creator of the universe out there watching us, we must exasperate her to no end with our limitless capacity for dissatisfaction. Now, I'm no Zen master, as I've said. I'm frankly too undisciplined in my practice to even think of myself as a proper novice. But in Zen, I have found the meaning of life. Would you like me to share it with you? Yeah? Oh, I'm so sorry, but there isn't one. There is no meaning of life. As I've mentioned, the very notion of meaning is to look at something and to think there must be something more, something beyond, some deeper pattern it resides within. It's asking what's really going on here. But life is, in each and every moment, already complete. And you are already complete, and what you seek is all around and within you. To look for something beyond this, well, to update the metaphor, it's like looking for your phone with the flashlight on your phone. Has anyone else ever done that? The meaning you seek is in the palm of your hand. There is nothing more, there is no beyond, there is no something deeper. The meaning of our existence is no more and no less than what's directly before us. So right now, the meaning of my existence is to deliver this sermon to all of you. Later on, the meaning of my life will be eating dinner with my family. After that, it might be sleeping or petting the cat or washing the dishes. As Joe mentioned, the Zen masters like to say, before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. I think the point is that to accept what is and to want nothing more is how we can find peace. In a similar vein, Albert Einstein once said that there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. So in a way, when we accept that there's no meaning to life, we open up the possibility for all of life to be meaningful. If we want to experience our lives in their fullness, richness, and beauty, we should focus less on meaning and more on savoring the miracle of our existence exactly as it is. The reason meaning only became important after I encountered death was because I felt powerless. I needed to believe that there was something outside myself, something bigger and stronger I might obtain that could stand up to the awful power of permanent annihilation. But prior to that tragedy, like all children, I lived meaning. I breathed meaning. I was meaning so much that I wasn't even aware of it, like a fish to water. And I think that's how meaning should be. To live with meaning is to stop looking for something more and just be fully here and now, and let that be enough. Let that be enough. Our closing hymn today is number 184, Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourselves.
But like Ryan was saying, let's think of it as a meditative way to be present with each other. So I don't know how many times we're going to do it. It's only one line. There's your line. The text is from Buddha, and so we'll
Our closing reading is by James Ishmael Ford, Returning to the World. All I want to do is to remind you, my friend, of the beauty and grace of this moment. This is home. This very place is where we find wisdom. This moment reveals what needs to be done and what can be left alone. Whatever traditions we claim, whatever religions we embrace, this moment shows its truth. The right here and now moment is the great play of existence, of life and death, of all that was and is and shall be. Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. Oh, sorry. So it has a musical benediction meditation on breathing. They're both in there, Sam. So meditation on breathing and then embodying the flame. Well, maybe and then extinguishing the chalice. Sorry about that. Okay.
All right, please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. Do you mind extinguishing it? We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. So as you leave here today, I hope you'll remember to be present with whatever you experience so that you may live meaning, breathe meaning, be meaning. And there's no better place to live your meaning than downstairs with a cup of coffee. So I hope you'll join us there. Blessed be. Last quick announcement, we're having a UUCP pool day at the Aquatic Center today from 3 to 5, I believe. Admission covered by the church, so if you're looking for a way to beat the heat, just show up and have fun. Thanks.